Hi, everyone. My name is Alyssa Junius, and I'm an artist, educator, and co-founder of arts and wellness collective Sultry Sisters. Our mission is to empower communities of color to live vibrant and shine bright through soul care, creative expression, sustainability, and collective healing. We are community partners with Hill Street Country Club, and we enjoy creating programs, events, and workshops in our hometown of Oceanside. Today, we are starting a community conversation centered around radical soul care. And throughout this community conversation series, we will speak with some of the local artists and leaders who are part of the Hill Street Country Club community. During these discussions, we'll be sharing how we build community around social change and the different ways we can sustain ourselves in the movement. I am so thrilled and excited today, y'all, because we have the amazing photographer and activist, Johnny Wynn, today. This hour will be dedicated to learning more about his work as a photographer and activist and how he continues to sustain himself during this social change movement. Hi, Johnny.
Hi, Alyssa. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Yeah, yesterday I closed down the Normalized Radical show, so it's kind of like wrapping it up. So it's a lot of relief, like reflecting on how amazing the experience was, and just feeling good about it.
Nice. Thank you. I'm so excited to start this conversation of radical soul care with you because you're an artist, and I really believe that what we do as artists is a very radical act itself. So thank you so much for being here. I wanted to start off this conversation by sharing two quotes by Angela Davis that really inspired this program series. And the first quote is, "Anyone who is interested in making change in the world also has to learn to take care of themselves." And the second quote, actually, we found on your page, Johnny, is "Radical means grasping things at the root." So how do you feel about those quotes? Like, have you heard those before? I mean, obviously you've heard the second one, but when you hear those quotes, what does that make you think?
I wholeheartedly agree with that. I think as we're all navigating like our roles in this social justice, like an activist kind of ecosystem, it's really important, like we want to do the best we can, and it's hard to if like we're still trying to figure out like how we can do it effectively, and it's overwhelming. So definitely self-care is so important, because how are you going to be able to help anybody if you are yourself are have like
Yes.
with certain things.
100%. I mean, what resonates with me about like anyone who wants to make change in the world has to take care of themselves. As an empath, a person who definitely feels all the feels when I see someone crying or in pain or aggravated. I want to go in and I want to help. But then I've had to recently remind myself that I need to pour into myself so I can give more abundantly versus from a place of depletion. So that's what I think when I hear those quotes.
Totally. Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah. So to start off this conversation with Sultry Sisters, we always want to kind of define words that we're using and talking about. So the first thing I wanted to ask you is, what does activism mean to you?
Shoot, activism. Like there's obviously that physical nature of activism is like showing up, right? Like the just attending protests and being in solidarity with people, continuing to question status quo, and seeing the inefficiencies in these systems, so you can challenge them. But then like there's also like the kind of like abstract, like what we want to do is ultimately like dismantle or reorganize or build structures that are equitable and abolish certain things, right? But those are like hard goals to activism, I would say. Like those are going to take a while. Like it's a continuous fight. I like to localize my activism too, and making sure like my community and like my small circle is taken care of. If it's like providing like care for my friends if in the form of babysitting or making sure like especially during COVID, I recognize, you know, like connecting with I live in a condo association of 8 people and I know every single one of those people. So I'm finding like it's so vital important to really like start like localizing your activism, because then you can kind of build that solidarity. Even during COVID, like making sure like everybody has toilet paper was so weird, but right. But like if I'm going to the store, what do you need? So they don't have to go out and get, you know, like things like that is very important. And I'm recognizing like as I'm kind of navigating that, but those are so important because again, like it's very important. Like if I'm trying to promote a world in which we don't need police, I must tell my neighbors that please do not call the police for anything that, if anything were to happen. So they need to know that. And then those conversations can be had. Why? Like, do you not trust the police? Like, you know, like, honestly, I don't feel like they're protecting me. You know, they come after the fact. And at that point, like, they're going to possibly arrest me, you know, like something's already happened or whatever it may be. Right? So
that's that community conversation. That's that conversation that bridges your community together. And I want to just apologize. I got so active in this conversation. I forgot to back up a little bit. And I want to just welcome everybody to this live. If you are joining us, please comment in the chat. Let us know who you are, where you're tuning in from. Did you see Johnny's awesome exhibit at Hill Street, Normalized Radical? Did you check it out? Are you familiar with his work? Are you here and you're a part of the Soul Tree community? Let us know. If you're in the house, we want to engage with you. Also, this is a very interactive conversation. If you comment, we want to engage with you. So if you have any questions specifically for Johnny, if you have a specific question for me, or in regards to Hill Street Country Club, go ahead and drop it. We do have some people in the house. We have Xenia. She says, hey, Johnny.
I don't know how to respond.
Hi. She's saying what's up in the house.
Yeah, we went to school together, actually, art school. So
what? Okay, let's pause. We love Xenia. She has Village Rock Shop right there in the village. And Tony and I met her almost 2 years ago, and we love her. She actually has photographed us before.
I think I saw that. Yeah.
Yes.
She does the double exposures.
Yes. That's like that's her jam. Yeah. Shout out to Xenia.
It's been a while.
Yes. Tony's in the chat. Tony, she's the other Soul Tree sister. Hey, y'all, excited for this conversation. Yeah, I was so excited for this conversation that Johnny and I, we jumped onto StreamYard like 15 minutes before, and we were just chatting that I totally forgot to be like, have you introduce yourself to the Facebook Live audience. So just backtracking a little bit, Johnny, if you could just briefly introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your artistic practice.
Yeah, okay. So my name is Johnny Wynn. That's how you pronounce it. One syllable and like in the form of a question. So those are some tips. Wynn. I guess you can say I'm a photographer, artist. You know, I still struggle with like that label, but you know, if you call me that, I'll take it. But my work stems from like a school of photography and journalism. You know, when I was attending Palomar, I found myself energized and magnetized to telling stories, documenting, being a fly in the wall, and trying to convey this person's narrative or this event's narrative. So yeah, I love telling other people's stories. However, like as I'm slowly navigating who I am as an artist, what I do, I'm recognizing that I have stories myself, right? Like, especially with this portfolio, yes, I'm taking pictures of certain events and the people involved, but I have narrative, I have perspective, opinions, and thoughts. And so as I am now evolving, I'm recognizing that it's time for me to tell my story versus just hiding behind a lens and telling other people's stories. So that's kind of like my artistic journey at the moment, and where I'm kind of like evolving towards.
That's beautiful. I love how you're sharing your transition. This is a transition moment where you're shifting from being behind the lens to in front of the lens, or having your narrative told versus telling other people's stories. So I love that. And in saying that, like when you talk about your work, and we defined a little bit earlier what activism means to you, I wanted to ask you how you see yourself practicing activism in your daily life, in your work, in general.
Yeah, like you said, practicing activism in your daily life and work. Like I feel like at a certain point, you reach that point where activism is part of your just routine, really, and like just it just shows up, like whether you like it or not, because now you're trying to just charged, right? Like you're looking at things from a different perspective and a viewpoint, so you can't help but to just connect, like practice activism everywhere. I honestly, like if you can say you have a choice to practice activism or not, that's you're quite lucky. Right?
What the follow-up question is, like, how does Hill Street Country Club play a role in your activism?
How does Hill Street Country Club play a role in my activism? Well, Hill Street Country Club has always been an ally to me.
Yeah.
Like I am an artist, I guess you can say, but I don't have the platform. I'm not out there kind of like soliciting myself and trying to get into museums or art spaces, because I'm fortunate that I have another job that pays my bills, that I don't need to actively like cater to certain people to try to be like, hey, can I get my stuff in your art, in your space? Like I don't do that because I'm very fortunate. So Hill Street has, because we're local and they've known me, as a community member, they just back me. So they've always been supportive of my activism. Like I always felt like they wanted to show my stuff, whether it was going to sell, whether it was fine art, whether it may turn people off. They had my back no matter what other people thought of it. And, just just me being a part of Hill Street, like has really allowed me to like find like how I can be an activist in these art spaces as well, because these are different ecosystems that require people to kind of have certain roles to challenge the systems that exist. Because in art, there's institutions, as you know, that control certain things, and those need to be dismantled and questioned as well.
Yes. So everyone who's tuning in today, we're centering our conversation around building community around a social change ecosystem, and specifically here at Hill Street Country Club. So Hill Street Country Club, when you think about social change ecosystems, we have different ecosystems. We have a personal ecosystem, which is like our mind, body, spirit, and soul. Then we have ecosystems which exist in our family life and our friends. And then we have community ecosystems like Hill Street Country Club, your workplace. And then we have the broader ecosystem, which is the world. And so these are different, like we said, systems that we hold together as community to support change and the movement. So that's what we're specifically talking about. And I wanted to ask you, Johnny, with thinking about like your personal ecosystem, your interpersonal ecosystem, and Hill Street, what does when you think about a social change ecosystem, what does that look like to you, without the definition of like Deepa Iyer's work, but just you personally? What do you think?
Can you repeat that again? My social change ecosystem. Say it again, because I think we
yeah. So everyone who's tuning in, we are talking about Deepa Iyer's social change ecosystem. It's a framework that she created to help individuals, organizations, community members figure out their roles and how they build community and support one another. And so for you, Johnny, I want to ask, like, when you think of a social change ecosystem in your life, whether it's personal, interpersonal, or at Hill Street, what does that look like to you?
It looks like in every aspect of your daily life, whether it's waking up in the morning and having to take care of your children, and then going to work, and then having to have conversations and work with your coworkers, and then going home and having your extracurriculars. Maybe you're an organization, or you're just doing other things. You're helping with a nonprofit. All those are all separate ecosystems, right? Maybe like, and not every ecosystem you play the same role. So that's how I see like how these social change is ecosystems, because you can have a profound effect on any one of those ecosystems. They don't have to be political, but everything in the end of the day is sort of political. Whether it's like in your household, you know, being a healer, being a guide or a caretaker, you know, you're having to teach your child how to navigate this world. At your workspace, you know, you have communicating with your coworkers and expressing to them your thoughts and opinions. And if you have the power to hire, those are places, that's where you can show up too and say, you know what, you know, this is where I can play a role and get somebody hired, right?
I love that.
Yeah, so at that point, those roles are different, right? So yeah, I think like recognizing like everything is connected. Your whole life, you have, whether you like it or not, it's political, and you choose to show up in spaces, and you choose to step back and recognize how that has an effect.
Yes.
Right?
Well, from all that you were saying, the one word that came to mind was support. So I think what I heard, like whether you are helping a child or a friend or an organization, like these ecosystems are built to provide support, because, you know, it's the collective healing, the community care. So I definitely agree with that definition of building ecosystems. And I want to kind of use this conversation and use Johnny as an example to kind of break down what that looks like here at Hill Street. So I want to kind of go through each of the roles and then follow up with asking you, Johnny, what different roles you feel like you play, whether it's personal, interpersonal, or in our Hill Street Country community. So in the Deepa Iyer social change ecosystem, there are various roles and that we can play with building community. The first one is Weaver. And Weavers see the through lines of connection. And typically they're like activists. So those are the Weavers currently in the movement. And then we have experimenters. They see the gap and they invent solutions. They're solution-based people. So those are the people who are creating mutual aid associations. When you think about currently like the community that we're a part of. And then frontline responders, those are healthcare workers, those are food banks, those are places and people who are giving direct help and support. Visionaries, visionaries give us hope. These are the writers. These are people who uplift us with their words. Visionaries are people like Angela Davis, who says anyone who wants to create change needs to take care of themselves. So that's an example. Then we have like builders. Those are people who are ready to implement programs and make exhibitions happen. So that's like Hill Street Country Club could be like a builder in our ecosystem. Then we have caregivers. Those are people making masks and taking care of those in need. Those are people who are babysitting their friends' children. Those are caregivers. And then we have disruptors, people who are shaking up the status quo, and people who speak out. So those are people who are like calling it out like it is. And then we have healers, people who tend to trauma people with empathy, people who are there to offer emotional support, spiritual support. Then we have storytellers. Storytellers are those who are documenting the current times, the arts, music, the movement. When I think of like one of the storytellers that stuck out to me, and actually you had posted it earlier in on Instagram, is Nina Simone. Like storyteller, always reflecting the times. And then guides, These are people who have discernment, people who have words of wisdom and who guide you. And so those are pretty much the roles of the social change ecosystem that Deepa created. And so my question to you, Johnny, like out of all those roles, how do you relate to those roles? Do you see yourself playing more, less, one, two?
Yeah. Again, depending on the ecosystem that I'm in, but ultimately I'm finding myself in the past 10 years, being more of that storyteller, right? Like I'm on the front, and also be a frontline responder and a disruptor. Those are probably the three that kind of encompass the work that I do regarding art and activism. For the past 10 years, that's how I knew how to show up and be in solidarity and fight for equity and and uh, and 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 social justice. So yeah, if there's a call to be out there, I felt energized. I felt like this is where I respond, because I'm not, like, I felt comfortable, right? And maybe that's not comfortable for everybody to be out there and being loud
Yes.
and being in the front lines and marching. But that was that was how I fed off. Like that was how I got my energy. So
Yes.
I think this is the most important thing, is when you do find your role, you get energized by doing it. You know, that's the role that I want.
I love how you said that, having this visceral, like this feeling towards it. And I want to shoot this to our audience who is tuning in. Out of all the roles mentioned, which role stuck out to you? Which role, when you think about social change, when you think about showing up in this moment, when you think, where do I have the most capacity and confidence? Where do you fall? That's a question for you all. For me, I'm right there with you with being a storyteller, as an audience, as an artist. I definitely enjoy playing the role of being a storyteller. As a Pilates practitioner, I see myself as a healer, a person where people can come to heal collectively and feel like they can move through emotions and move through and process feelings through movement. And then that's kind of like my first two that stick out to me. And then I kind of looked at guide, and I was like, it's weird because I like guide, but I don't necessarily feel like I have the wisdom of a guide. So I've definitely noticed that there's certain roles that I'm attracted to, but don't necessarily have the confidence that if right now I had to be a guide, I don't know if I'd be right there.
Right. What's important, when I remember like listening to Deepa talk, was that these roles aren't supposed to be concrete, right? They're not supposed to be job titles that you're just like, oh, that's my job title, that's what I'm good at, therefore I need to do that. No, like, you know, like as you navigate this, it's a long journey, and you know there's going to be you know, things that happen along the way, and you should find new roles, because you might, like for me, being a frontline responder and being a disruptor and a storyteller for the past 10 years, I'm tired, you know, like maybe I want to be a caregiver now, you know, maybe in 10 more years, I'll have that knowledge and confidence to be a guide. So that's what it is like, recognize that these aren't concrete job titles, you know, they are roles, and you can inhabit any one you want. And like sometimes, like as you do this exercise, you might find like, hey man, like why am I always like this person, or like this, like is there a way I can like connect myself to, if I want to be a guide or a caregiver, like is there a way I can like do that? And like hopefully being a part in the ecosystems, you can find like other people who are in certain roles that can teach you how to do that.
Absolutely. We've had some people respond. Xenia says, I think visionary. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Visionary. So the visionary is the person that gives us hope. Those are the writers. Those are people who are helping inspire us and uplift us.
The dreamers, you know, like they're imagining the boldest possibilities, you know, so then we can kind of like hope, you know, like that we can reach them. Like, I feel like those are the abolitionists.
Yes.
Right? Because
yes, because
that's hard to envision a world without police, but it can happen, you know, with the right care.
They provide that image. And Zenia commented, I thought the same as Johnny. The last 10 years I've been go, 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 and now it's time for self-care.
Yes.
Yeah. And I wanted to say, like, this social change ecosystem that we're talking about is meant to be a framework and a tool for us to come to and reflect, like, how am I feeling right now? What capacity do I have to show up? Because I think when we think about you know, going past this election, you know, everyone has been leading up to, like, oh, Tuesday we're gonna know, and Tuesday, and then once this is all over, I kept hearing people saying, like, once this is all over, I'm like, once this is all over, what's over? Like honestly, like, the question, like, what's over? Because I think for me, if there's anything that I've tapped into, is that there's that cyclical, like, there's just this continuation, and there's this wave, and that's where we're bringing this conversation of radical soul care and talking about the social change ecosystem, because y'all, we're in for a ride, and we want to inspire and start this conversation of how do we sustain ourselves during this movement? How do we, and leading into that, I want to ask you, Johnny, like, how, when you reflect now from the past 10 years, and like you just ended your exhibit, Normalized Radical, which really documented the 10 years of you being an activist and a photographer out here in these streets. How did you sustain yourself? Like, what kept you going, coming back and continuing this work?
Well, I know that again, it was an energized feeling. Like, I felt like, you know, I wanted to, based on my experience, I felt like I could do something, you know, and so that kept me energized to keep doing something, because I love the art, the arts, the creative arts, the creative. But after you do that, it's tiring, you know, coming back from like Standing Rock, you know, like being there for 3 days, or you know, like this influx of like what happened in 2020 with Black Lives Matter. Like, you get tired, you get worn out. So for me, making sure like I'm prioritizing myself too, and not feeling guilty about it. That's the biggest thing, because I'm very critical of myself. I'm my worst enemy. Like, I'm like questioning, am I showing up appropriately? Like, is this self-serving? Like, am I coming off as a poser? Like, so many other people are doing this work that's so important. I'm just shooting photos. Like, where's my importance? You know, like, how am I liberating folks? You know, or providing equity in these systems, like by just taking photos. So
yeah, I hear you.
Yourself, you know, like you're your own worst enemy. So I think reeling it back, because nobody says that.
Yeah.
You know, why am I saying that about myself? So yeah, taking breaks is so huge, and not feeling guilty about yourself. Yeah, those are the biggest things, and relying on community, you know, so important.
I wanted to respond to your answer about, you know, sustaining yourself in this work, and how, you know, you're questioning, like, is this self-fulfilling, and is this for me, when I saw your work, and knowing that it was through the span of 10 years, and having that question of like how you sustain yourself in the work, but also how beautiful, and how the gratitude of how these conversations about these events are sustained through your work, sustained through that photograph.
Right.
Because with a photograph, we can revisit the memory. We can have the conversations of what happened here. Where are we going? Where do we come from? And for me, when I think of photography, and I think of just being a storyteller, I think those are the questions, that's the kind of space we hold, is a moment to reflect, and a moment to and that's what I see in your work, is like, it does sustain the conversation. So That's just my take.
No, I appreciate that. And like, I need those affirmations, and I don't know when now it's going to be like, all right, is that enough, Johnny? Have you gotten enough affirmations to kind of give you confidence that you're doing okay? Like so thank you for that. Like, shoot, I need to get over that, because yeah, sometimes it's just when you're taking photos, just like there's real work out there. People are like getting arrested, or people are like, putting life and body on the line. And I'm just chilling back here just with the camera. So it's such a privileged position in a way. Right. So yeah, thank you once again.
Yeah, I think it's beautiful that you're able to articulate and have that reflection, because when it comes to building community is to understand where our privilege is and how we can help our community. When we think about if I have, something extra, if I have, when we're talking about, food banks, if I have something extra, I'm going to bring it, so recognizing something so simple, like I have a car, I have the privilege of giving someone a ride. I think those are the things that allow us to show up for our community once we know what our privileges are and how we can use them to help each other.
Totally.
So I think it's good to acknowledge them.
Right. And especially now, I don't rely on art to fund, to pay for my rent and my food on the table. So my position as an engineer for the city gives me security, gives me steady income. And as I'm reevaluating my roles, like, this is how I can contribute and participate, right? Is like, I don't see the role as being like a financier or something on this in Deepa's model, but in a way, that's kind of how I feel like I want to show up now. Like, if I can, like, continuously donate on a monthly basis. Don't let it be a one-time thing. So I'm actually thinking, I got X amount of money per month. Let's do this. Let's put it in things,
Yes. I want to segue into, speaking of giving back and donating. Can you tell us a little bit about the initiative that you supported through your work at Hill Street with your Normalized Radical exhibit? I believe your work was you donated funds.
Yeah. So all the proceeds from the print sales and art sales went to San Diego Bail Fund, and the symbology behind that is that, like, my work is motivated by the folks that are doing the work on the ground, those frontline responders, right? Those organizers, and frontline responders isn't limited to like just the organizers of protests and marches either. And those ones that are just risking and disrupting and shaking the status quo on the ground. We got to support them. But also frontline responders are providing like mutual aid for your community, right? Like during these like times, like say COVID, the ones that are like setting up GoFundMe's to transfer funds over to, say, a trans woman that's gonna possibly be homeless. That's the most effective way you can donate, is donate directly to that person. So if you see a call out, donate to that. Just because it doesn't have like a Red Cross, like, nonprofit C3, doesn't mean that you don't donate. You donate directly to that person's pocket. That's the most effective way you can do that.
I completely agree, because you're exactly right. In this social change ecosystem, it doesn't have that definition. But Deepa also said you can create and expand on these definitions. And I love how you talked about using your art to fund and support, people who are out here and protesting and may need those funds to get out of jail, and also talking about the mutual aid, because I think also when we think about social change, and people right now are saying, thinking that their power, when you think about positions of power and you're voting, and if the person you voted for, or the person that's your representative, is not the person in power, that then there's a sense of like this powerlessness. And I actually disagree, because we're talking about having these ecosystems and how we can, and we do have the power to directly impact and change and support someone, like
right,
through mutual aid, through using your art to donate directly to an organization.
Yeah.
So for me, like that's the kind of conversation I want to kind of have with everyone who's here, is just kind of offering that to them, of changing your perspective of what social change looks like. It's not just, it's beyond the ballot. It's not just, you know, using your voice for policies, but using your voice and putting it into practice daily.
Yes, because we're envisioning an idealistic world, right? Like where we all care for each other, and we don't, like, you know, like we don't need cops and things like that. So we have to practice that model, right? And show people that it can work, and that it's not just a pipe dream that kids like dream of, you know, like these can be put into effect. And so this model, yeah, we have to live that. We have to like definitely just be the walking kind of like example of this. But yes, going back to, yeah, I'm just like, I've seen people get arrested, and I hate that, like, and I've heard horror stories from, like, you know, your basic human rights are taken away from you. They know you're a protester. They're treating you different. They're going to increase that bail. They're going to exhaust all your funds, keep you in jail, possibly have you lose your job, you know, and like, and not care for your family. Those are huge hits. So like, I just want SD Bail Fund to keep doing their work, because I want people back in their house, you know, taking care of their family, going to their jobs, and not being restricted from peeing or eating food when they're in jail. They're abusing you in there.
Yes.
There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. So definitely, I want to support those frontline folks.
Yeah, and it's a beautiful example for people to see how you can use your art to create change, and it's a form of community care.
It is.
I think I want to kind of segue into speaking about community care and collective healing. And for you as an artist, what does that look like? Like, I know we talked about your work and donating, but expanding on that a little bit. Like, when you think about community care and when you think about collective healing, when you imagine what could that look like? Not what does it look like, but what could it look like when you think about that at Hill Street?
Yeah, with Hill Street and in general, I feel like with Hill Street specifically, the community care is like, I know Dinah personally. I'm the godfather to her son, so I feel like that's like a direct community care that I can provide by just spending more time with them, you know, or making sure if Dinah needs a day off, can I be there, you know, to babysit or something like that. I want to be a resource to again set this example that like this can happen, you know, like, and this doesn't have to happen between friends, but this can happen between my neighbors. Like, my neighbors need something. I've walked their dogs before, you know, I want to be available. So those are the direct, like, that's what I feel like community care is, you know, like,
I love how this is making me think about when we were talking about earlier, you pointed out that for Deepa Iyer's roles, they're not job descriptions. They're not hard and formal. These are like ways to think in which you can show up. And when we think about community care and we think about community, and you think about connecting with your neighbors, just having that personable interaction, just wanting that want to just support, and having that like, hey, I'm here. And for me, when I think about Hill Street Country Club and my first experience, I actually went to a protest poster painting session about around June, and actually met another artist, Kelvin. Yeah, Kelvin. And when I saw Dinah and she was just like, hey, you're here. It was just, I felt like at that moment being there was enough. Showing up was enough. And I want to say, you know, to everybody like joining in on the conversation who might be like, well, I don't know what role I play. I'm not really sure. I'm not an artist. I'm not an organizer. I'm not frontline. I don't have this. It's really having that intention of saying out loud, saying to someone, hey, I'm here. I'm here, I'm present. And in your heart saying, I want to show up. Because saying those affirmations of I'm here and I want to show up, those things will come to you because you're open to it.
Yeah.
And that's what I think when I think about building community. It's just showing up and doing what needs to be done in the present moment, whatever that looks like, whether that means you just showing up for yourself. Like, I need this. I need to come to Hill Street so I can connect with people. I need to come to Hill Street to get inspiration from the work there. I just need to get out of my house. That's part of being engaged.
Yes. Yeah. That getting out of the house, like that's like being like, I feel like community care is also intertwines with self-care, right? We have to continue to make sure you're going, taking care of yourself.
What has it been like? Because I know for your exhibit, because it's during COVID and we can't have these big gatherings, I saw that you had, appointments and people, you were there to engage and talk. What was that like for you? What was that like engaging with the community and your work?
Overwhelming in a way, because I expressed to you, like, I've had solo exhibits before, but this is the first time where I really felt like I'm putting a lot of myself out here. Like I have something to say. I'm naked and you can ask me whatever you want. And I'm transparent at this point. So that's a huge responsibility because I don't want to come off as like I'm this subject matter expert on this thing. No, I'm just sharing with you my observations, my thoughts, and my feelings from my perspective. But I embraced it, like having people come to the gallery, and because I feel like art is like a bridge. It's like you're being invited to this space, and it's there's beautiful art. So like this is not really a space to just like wow out in a way, like here's an opportunity, like. And it's because like I've been doing the work for 10 years, like there is a little bit of kind of like a, not respect, but just like, just, okay, this guy he's not a flash in the pan, he's got some experiences. So credibility, there's some there. So I had really great conversations with like ex-Oceanside police person. She was able to tell me, yeah, there's good people, but there was also really bad people. So like, yes, I get that. I understand that. I'm not here to question your observations of things too. And then having a conversation with the Marine, because again, Oceanside's heavy Marine population. So seeing like bridging these conversations in a way that's like, it's almost like it's neutralized, like because the environment, we're able to kind of talk on common ground and neutralize a little bit. But that Marine was an ally, 100%. He was it was good. So yeah, it's been a very vulnerable experience, but that I like haven't felt being an artist, in the past 10 years. And like this is the first time where I'm like, shoot, that was heavy. That was a lot. And yeah, so back to self-care. I'll probably have to take a break soon.
Well, definitely, those balancing acts are needed. What I was hearing when you were talking about your experience with having conversations in regards to your work is how your art was a common ground. It's like your art was a place to initiate that conversation and that's what I love about art too, is that, I felt very vulnerable with showing my work as well. Like I definitely identify with that, like when you let it breathe on its own and be its own thing, it's almost like, I don't have a child, but like letting your child out into the world and be like, come back in one piece, and I also think with having something outside of yourself and to offer that perspective, I think that's the beauty of art, is to be able to find that common ground in what it means for you and the other person versus like, this is my view. It's like, no, like, what do you see in this work right here? And then in the end, you end up seeing each other.
Right.
So
I agree. Yeah.
yeah. I also wanted to ask you another question, and heavy or light, you can answer how you want. How does being an artist play a role in your journey towards liberation?
Art has always been like, for me, like therapy in a way. It's kept me so grounded. Without it, I might have been lost in this capitalistic kind of like productivity. Be productive, get money, go get a house, because that's, my mom coming from, Vietnam, like with no opportunity. Capitalism is great for her,
Yeah.
so, these are the things I was taught in my household, go to school, make money, and excel and achieve financially. Art has allowed me to kind of wait a minute, reel it back, hold up. It's not about you, like, and stay focused. Like, it's kept me so accountable, like, to when 2020 happened. Like, I have to be honest, like for the past 3 or 4 years, I was kind of like, I was getting promotions, at my job, and I'm like, oh, I want to buy a house, like things like that. So being so lucky, like, not lucky, but like something like that happened that like allowed me to kind of reel it back, like recognize, hey, you know what? Like, for the past 4 years, I've been I've been climbing up the social ladder, and my perspective now is different, or was different. Am I looking at things differently? Am I looking at things from a downward perspective? If I am, get back to the ground level, focus again. You're accountable for this. You can't get lost in the fog, so art has allowed me to reconnect with that. And art is a language, like, I have these thoughts and feelings, and maybe I'm not expressing them vocally to my friends and family, but my creativity has allowed me to speak a language, to certain people, and allowed me to like talk about my thoughts and feelings via photos, via art. um, and and yeah, so it's like, it's me to be for me to allow me to like a portal to be vulnerable, art, and
I love
hopefully that it's liberated me,
Yes.
hopefully I can, find a way to continue liberating others with it.
I resonate with you talking about it being being an artist. It plays a role in humility, in bringing in. And the word that came to me when you're saying, telling your story, is grounding.
Yeah.
It's grounding, to have art as a practice of grounding, to have art as a practice of tapping into the human condition. And for me, when I think about how art plays a role in my liberation, is giving me a portal for vulnerability, but also a portal for joy.
Yes.
A portal to tap into my inner child, a portal for me to process.
It is because, art, like, in school, like, it's an elective in a way. It's not a requirement, right? So we've almost been conditioned at a young age that this is not that important, right? But like, it brings so much joy. It does, like you said, makes you feel like you're a child again. You can use your imagination. You can dream. You can think boldly. Like, you're so restrictive in other areas of your life. How you can't really do that.
Exactly. And speaking of also like what's coming at my wheels are turning, because we think about radical soul care and normalizing radical. We're talking about being able to sustain ourselves, and what I feel like we're circling around is the fact that art is a way for us to be able to sustain ourselves. Therapy, sustain ourselves, grounding, sustain ourselves to be able to have these hard conversations with people who we might not, when we look at them, think that they are like us. So I'm like, it's I didn't like, this is not something that I like wrote down, but as this conversation is like kind of it's revealing to me that that's That's the beauty of having this art community. Hill Street is this place to sustain ourselves.
Yes.
You know, where we can sustain these conversations, where we can sustain relationships with each other, build relationships with each other, offer solutions and support. And when I think about a social change ecosystem, I think an art space is a vital role. Having a communal space is a vital role. And yeah.
And to participate in an art space ecosystem does not mean that you have to be an artist, even though we all can make art.
Yes.
You know, we're all capable of it, and we're never that was never prioritized in our life.
Yeah.
But you can participate in the art space ecosystem in so many ways. So I just want to encourage people, you know, like if you know, storytelling isn't your thing, or if creating art and is difficult, there's so many other ways that's like, it's so required, you know. We need your dreams and your ideas and your innovations too.
Yes. I love that word, participate. And I love how you shot it back to our audience. You don't have to be an artist to participate in an arts community. There are different roles we can play in supporting our ecosystems, and specifically our ecosystem of Hill Street. You can participate by coming to shows. Y'all are actually participating right now in this live. You know, you can participate by donating. You can participate actually by coming to our workshop on November 21st. I had to do the plug. I had to, Johnny. You're like, ooh, that was a smooth one. So, you know, if this conversation was inspiring to you, if you know Johnny, if you know me, we are artists and we are here, and we just had this community conversation reflecting on our roles using the social change ecosystem, but we want to take it a step further and open this conversation up to the Hill Street Country Club community and say, hey, let's join together. Let's meet on Zoom on November 21st, and let's go through this together. We're going to be reflecting on how we want to show up. We're going to be connecting with each other. There's going to be opportunities in the workshop for us to actually have one-on-one conversations with people who are at the workshop, because the big part of having an art space and art community is to connect. You know, one of the three things that, you know, with Soul Tree we talk about is we want to connect, we want to create, we want to celebrate. And so with talking about building a social change ecosystem, we're all finding ways, how can we connect with each other? How can we create change together? And then how can we celebrate? You know, how can we celebrate the different things that we accomplish as a community together? So yeah.
It's so important to celebrate, because if you think about it, so when we're fighting for social justice, a lot of it is loss.
Yes.
I mean, I guess you can say that, right? A lot of it is like not failure, but just disappointment. So we have to celebrate those small victories, you know, like it's worth it.
They don't call it the resistance for no reason.
Right. Exactly. We're going against some big money players, you know,
right.
so
we have to fight resistance with resilience. And part of resilience is the celebration. You know, it is not just the pain. Like it's the process of going through the pain, of being vulnerable, but finding your power, finding that, and that's community care. That's that collective healing. That is what resilience is a part of, you know. That's why I feel so grateful for finding, you know, Hill Street Country Club. Actually, Dinah found us on Instagram.
How it is, that's how it goes.
Yeah, you know, using social media for good. You know, everyone wants to be like, social media. Like, no, that's a place of connecting. That's a place where you can create. You know, you can share your work. So I want to follow this. Like, I have two last questions for you, Johnny. For Soul Tree Sisters, we talk about we have a slogan: "Live vibrant, shine bright." And I wanted to ask you, what does that mean to you? living vibrant and shining bright?
Living vibrant, shining bright feels like you're showing out the best parts of yourself and sharing it with others. But I feel like that in order to get there, like there has to be a lot of internal work done. Like a workshop like you're providing on November 21st to find out, like, define your role, like reflect on what those roles are, and then plan, or like simply going to therapy or something like that, right? Working on those shadows, or whatever, good and bad, like, so then exactly where you can define even more your roles, because once you do all that internal work, like, and you're shining internally, you can then shine outwardly and be vibrant and shine bright outwardly, and that will have a profound effect on every ecosystem and aspect of your life. So I feel like, yes, doing that internal work first and foremost is shining bright and living private.
Yes, love that. I mean, it goes back to Angela Davis's quote: anyone who's interested in making change in the world also has to learn to take care of themselves.
Yeah.
So living vibrant and shine bright, like, I definitely agree with you on that. Yeah, so thank you so much, Johnny, for having this conversation with me. This is actually me and Johnny's first time meeting.
Yeah, nice to meet you, Alyssa.
Nice to meet you. We've seen each other, commenting on each other's social media handles. We've been supporting each other virtually. So it was such a pleasure to talk to you. And I really look forward to working with you in the future, continuing this conversation. And it really brings me, it gives me that, that energy you were talking about, to know that there are other artists out here who want to engage by supporting each other, by connecting, and offering a lens through their work, as a portal. So thank you for having this conversation with me. Thank you so much, Hill Street Country Club, for being a space that allows us to grow as people, as artists, and as activists who want to engage in our community. The one thing I want to just also add about Hill Street is that it's a place that if you show up, you will have that opportunity to engage. We're always creating programs that are starting conversations, whether it's, the Reuse Project talking about, finding ways to be more eco-friendly, whether it's Johnny's exhibit, Normalized Radical, which is talking about, activism and all the things that are going on in the streets, and really documenting this movement and showing the truth of this movement and the power of this movement. And then also having us, Sultry Sisters, to be here to host and facilitate community workshops that allow us to empower our community members to define their roles and be active members of Hill Street Country Club. So yes, thank you so much, Johnny. If anyone has any questions, feel free to reach out to us. We will be having this series again next Wednesday. We'll be speaking with one of the co-founders of Hill Street Country Club, Dinah herself. We will be talking again and reflecting on the social change ecosystem. She will be diving into the roles that she plays, and we'll be doing the same thing, because this is all to promote our workshop on November 21st. Our community members will have a chance to do exactly what we're doing right now, having a conversation, connecting, reflecting on how we want to continue to do this work, how we want to continue to engage in this movement, and to just have a place to feel like you're a part of something. So, yeah. Do you have any lasting things you want to share with our community? Yeah,
I just say don't miss Dinah's talk. That's for sure. I think it's going to be very informative, and she does a lot. And it's a way. It could be provided. I mean, that could be treated as a way to find out how you can get involved with Hill Street too.
Exactly. All of these conversations are a chance for you to get to know Hill Street Country Club, and the individuals who make up Hill Street. So this is a really chance for us to say, hello, y'all. We're here. We're in Oceanside. We're taking up space, and we're not gonna. This is not over. This is just the beginning. This is us cultivating this energy because we need to keep this going. We need to continue to do this work. We need to continue to show up for each other. So thank you so much, Johnny, for being here. We will see you next Wednesday. Bye, everybody.
Bye.